What's going on, everyone? You're watching RD Motoring, and today I wanted to experiment with the new Blazer's adaptive cruise control and the lane departure feature. These are two separate features in the new Blazer. They're not just rolled into the same thing that you can turn on and off. So in order to turn on the lane departure feature, you'll need to press this little button down by your shifter. Red light means it's on, no light means it's off. And what that does is it keeps you from drifting out of a lane into oncoming traffic, into another lane, into the shoulder. Wherever there's either a dashed or a solid line, if you try to cross it without using the blinker, it'll actually kind of hold you back into your lane. It won't aggressively pull you in, but it will kind of nudge you the right way. As with adaptive cruise, if you look in your gauge cluster, you can see an image that looks kind of like a speedometer with an arrow pointed to it. If you only see that, that means that just the regular cruise control is enabled. I'm sure everyone knows what regular cruise control is. You set a speed, it keeps that speed no matter what. In order to turn on adaptive cruise, you press and hold this button to the left side of your steering wheel. You'll see a message come up that adaptive cruise is available, and then that little image with the speedometer and the arrow pointing to it will now be the same thing, but just have a little car behind it. So with the adaptive cruise, in order to set it, all you have to do is go a constant speed, pull down on this little toggle on the left side of your steering wheel to set, and you'll have a little image on your gauge cluster saying cruise braking, adaptive cruise set. If you want to adjust the speed, just simply toggle up or down on the lever, and you can see in the lower portion of your gauge cluster a little mile per hour indicator showing you you're either going up or you're going down. You can also set the following distance of the car in front of you by pressing this other button on the left side of your steering wheel. That looks like two cars with an arrow, and there's like a star icon. If you press that, again, it'll show up on your gauge cluster, so you can either go far, medium, or near. Now, the whole point of adaptive cruise is basically maintaining a speed regardless of how slow traffic is moving. It will never go faster than the speed that you set, but it will go slower if it approaches slower moving traffic or a stopped vehicle. As you can see now, if I set my max speed to 65, I'm following a truck right now, only going about 60, 61 miles an hour. The Blazer is not going to go any faster than that, and it's not going to get any closer to that truck. Now, if you do have a higher speed set than what the car is going in front of you, if you put on your blinker, your car will slowly start to speed up to anticipate that you're changing lanes, which it thinks will be a clear path, so it should be able to go faster, or to the speed that you least set. Now with the lane keep assist, like I said, it's not going to be too aggressive and pull you into the lane. It just kind of nudges you back into the lane in case you start to drift out. As I'll demonstrate now, I'll just gently steer towards the shoulder line, and the Blazer will just pull you back into the lane. No hands, and it just keeps me from going over that line. Same deal with the dashed line. If you slowly go over to it, no hands, it'll pull you right back. The only time that this feature can get a little annoying is if you're approaching some sort of construction, or if there's various lines painted on the road. The Blazer will sense that there's a line that you technically shouldn't be crossing and try to pull you over. I mean, the tug is never overpowering where you can't just pull it back yourself, but it can be slightly jarring to just be driving along and then having your steering wheel give a little tug if you start to go over the wrong line. The other time this can be annoying is if you're just the worst kind of person and you don't like to use your blinker. If you're changing a lane without your blinker, it'll just give you a little tug back into your original lane. Just use your blinker, folks, and that won't be a problem. Now, I will say the feature isn't like some others that's lane centering. It won't keep you centered in the lane. It's really only for if you're drifting out, it'll just kind of pull you back in. If you do drift to one side of the lane and it kind of pulls you back towards the center, it's not going to correct itself and keep you centered in the lane. It's going to kind of keep going in the direction that it went and just kind of bounce you off the other side. So it's not anything like any sort of self-driving. If you did let go of the wheel for an extended period of time, it's going to slowly just ping pong you in between the lanes, and then eventually it'll just yell at you, telling you to put your hands on the wheel. Now, I primarily use the adaptive cruise on the highway. I rarely use it really anywhere else just because stop and go can be a little bit of a pain. Now, what's cool is that the feature will bring you to a complete stop. If you're in traffic and somebody stopped in front of you, complete stop, no problem at all. In order to get going again, you do have to apply a little bit of throttle, but then the adaptive cruise will once again kick in and it'll pull you up to either the speed that you set or the speed that the car is going in front of you, whichever is lower. And I'll mention too that I drive a lot for my job, usually anywhere from 3 to 6 hours a day. And the adaptive cruise is very smooth in operation, and I really don't have any issues with it at all. I've driven another vehicle, I believe it was a Mazda CX-3 with adaptive cruise. It was a bit of an older model, so they could have fixed it as the newer models came out. But that car with its adaptive cruise, it would kind of maintain a speed, come up on a car that was going slightly slower, and apply very hard brakes. The nice thing about the Blazer is that it it tends to sense far enough ahead to where if a car is going slower, it'll just let off the throttle, coast up to the car, and if it gets close enough to where it needs to apply the brakes, then it will at that point. As you can see, I'm just approaching some slower traffic. My car is set to 65 and it'll just adjust accordingly as to what speed it needs to be at. The only thing I don't like about the system is that if you're in a lane where, let's say, an exit's coming up, if you're following a car that is getting off on that exit, they normally slow down the lane to get off. But it seems like the Blazer will slow down pretty aggressively behind that car, almost to a point of being a little unsafe on highway speeds. I don't like when people drive overly slow on highways. I think it's just as dangerous as speeding. But when the Blazer senses a car is going slower, like I said, it'll slow down dramatically, and then it takes a bit to regain its previous speed. So what I do is I just pay attention. I just pay attention to people have their blinkers on if they're getting off the highway. If they do, I just do my best just to get over into the next lane. That way I just don't have to worry about all that. And that's just some real world testing of the 2019 Chevy Blazer's adaptive cruise and lane keep assist. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate a like and consider subscribing as I post a new video every week. Take care, everyone.